3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is January the 3rd, 2022. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Happy 2022.
This is the third day of 2022. That's the first time I've actually used the date for anything.
I'm surprised you nailed it on the first time.
I had to look at the bottom of my computer because it gives like the date. I had to double check what the year was.
Well, Carl, it's been so long since we recorded that I'm looking down at my soundboard and realizing I forget how it works. I don't remember which dial it is to mute myself. So if I sneeze on air, I apologize.
I think it's been a long time since a lot of people in the world of hockey have done anything. And we're seeing that. We're going to get into that tonight. We're going to talk about some New Year's resolutions. What are you, maybe this is a conversation we have every New Year's and I just forget, but are you a New Year's resolutions guy? Do you like to make them?
I start to think about it in December and I start to make plans for them in December. And then I think to myself, why am I waiting? This is stupid. I'll just start doing them right now. And then I do them for 3 weeks in December and give up. Yeah,
that's kind of my approach as well. Is I always tell myself hey, if there's something that I need to do, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to wait until this arbitrary date, switching the calendar over to do it. But this year's different. This year, my September to December was just a whirlwind where I was just trying to keep my head above water the entire time. And just so many other things going on in my head that self-reflection was a thing that was missing in my life. And so I found myself for the first time, actually doing that, actually thinking about it and seeing. I didn't land on anything. I don't have a resolution, but this was the closest I ever came.
Well, we have an hour now. You want to work through that?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. What do you have a leading question that can get me going? Because
I really don't. And no offense to you, I'd rather talk about hockey.
What? You don't want to dive into my life for the next hour? That seems, that's probably good for the listeners, but I would have enjoyed it. All right, well, let's get into it. Let's get into both hockey games that were played while we were gone, 2-week break, and they played a handful of games.
Honestly, mid last week, I started to think, man, what are we going to talk about when we have to come back on the air next week?
When everything, so we left, and I know we both were thinking this today of what was the state of hockey when we left? And some games had been canceled, not all of them, right? They'd canceled games up until the break, right? They just had done that. Breaking news as we ended our last episode, right? Was canceling those games. There was 2 games they were going to play that next night. One of those 2 games got canceled because, of course, they played the other one for some reason, and then took a big break. More games got canceled after the break. Games continue to get canceled. And the biggest thing that's going to be impacting us, and we'll start there, is particularly scheduling games for the Canadian teams, because Canadian teams are, I'm not sure the state of things in the States, but Canadian cities are starting to lock things down more as Omicron starts to sweep across the country. And that means attendance is limited. And these teams have said, we can't function if we're not getting fan revenue. We got to move these games. Our home games got to get moved. So these Canadian teams are now playing only in America, only their road games, with a bunch of home dates being rescheduled later. So it looks like if you are a fan of a Canadian team, we'll see you who knows when.
Excuse me. I don't know what it's like out west right now. In Ontario specific, it's been a roller coaster over the last 2 weeks. Because first, it was 50% capacity, but that's still 20,000 people allowed in Scotiabank Arena. Then they reduced it to 1,000. 10,000 people in Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah, which is still, it's not a lot, but it's enough that you can get by, right? Especially for MLSE.
Yeah. Then they reduced it to 1,000. Now, as of today, it's 0. This all happened over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, every 4 days, Ontario is tossing out new rules.
It's crazy. And these teams, I kind of get it from a business perspective. You got to make money. What's the point of having these games if you're not going to make money. This year was all about making your money back. So they want to postpone those games for as long as possible so that later on they can have fans come in and buy concessions and buy tickets and all of that so they can make some money. I get it.
I absolutely get it, right? It makes a ton of sense why they want to. But with the amount of games currently being rescheduled, I know not even a Canadian team, the Bruins, for example, they have to play an average of a game every other day the rest of the year with no extra cancellations. That's their schedule the rest of the way. And so we're going to have, like the way that it is, we're playing, you might play 4 games a week on average the rest of the season, which is a lot.
That's a lot of hockey, but they've had a pretty slow schedule up to this point, right? A lot of rest.
I mean, unless you've been in COVID protocol and have had COVID and are under the weather with that, a lot of very rested players for sure.
They must just be raging to go. like let's play hockey.
Well, and I don't know if how much hockey you've watched this week. I've honestly noticed a big issue with teams. It honestly looks a little bit like preseason hockey watching it because they haven't been playing for so long. They haven't been teams have had 2 weeks off at this point. Some of them, a number of them, 2 weeks off since they last played a game. And now they're coming back. They don't have a full NHL roster, right? They don't have guys healthy. They have guys that were having difficulty breathing a week ago and are now out without any game shape. These games, some of them are very unwatchable.
Yeah, I watched the Red Wings yesterday, and I know it's the Red Wings, but they looked very lethargic out on the ice. Just it looked like they had no energy despite the rest.
Exactly. Well, the Avalanche, they had, I think it was 16 days between games for the Avalanche.
Oh.
And they came out yesterday and gave up 2 goals to the Ducks early. They managed to come back and win that game, but they looked terrible coming out of the gate.
And now the Ducks have shut down their practice out of an abundance of caution because a few players and staff members have tested positive.
Who were in the game last night.
Does this now rebound back onto the Avalanche and they got to miss more time?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Anyways, we got off on a bit of a tangent. The Canadian teams thing. So while we agree, yes, you got to protect your profits and hold these games and you can have fans, they can only put them off for so long. Time-wise, the playoffs have to start on X date. So they have to play those games at some point.
Because with you rescheduling all of these games, you cannot, you can't just have a bunch of teams sitting around leading up to the playoffs. This is going to be a terrible visibility issue for the league, right? Because the league is not just worried about seats, right, and ticket sales. They also have a brand new TV contract with ESPN that they're trying to make good on. And if you're leading up to the playoffs, which is the pinnacle of the season, the highlight of the year, and you're having no games being played because you only have the Canadian teams left playing, no one's going to want to tune into that. That's not going to be interesting. That's not going to build any hype for the product that you have. So I think in general, right, the league doesn't want that at all.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't think so. But you bring a good point with their TV partners, because here in Canada too, there's they have responsibilities and agreements with their TV partners. They can't just leave them hanging forever either. So I don't know what that date is that they're like, we can only postpone games up to here before they have to start being played.
Yeah. And one thing that we suspected that it would get to this, but one thing that did happen that led to this scheduling having to be able to be rescheduled is the NHL is officially not going to the Olympics this year. They announced that to a very mixed reception from the players.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because a lot of the chatter leading up to the decision was that the players were not liking what the COVID protocols in China were going to be like. So they were considering pulling out themselves. Right.
Yeah. And then, a lot of them were. Yeah.
And then the news came out that the players were not going to go. I assumed it was the players' decision. And I learned later that it was actually the league that made that decision due to the scheduling.
Yeah. So which that's what they said, right? We're going to the Olympics unless we have to schedule. And it is interesting because the league is always, right? Like we've seen this push for them to go to these Olympics in China because they want that visibility in China. And now they're not getting it. They're not there. But I mean, a lot of comments came. Really, the main player that spoke up on the side of going to the Olympics was Brad Marchand. And I know that I rarely have good things to say about Brad Marchand, but his comment was interesting, right? So he said the NHL and the NHLPA can change the rules of the CBA to add a taxi squad so they don't miss any games and don't lose any money, which is true, right? That's another thing that happened with this. They changed they worked with the NHL to do it, but NHL and NHLPA added that, which has already been agreed upon, that the players will pay back in escrow until the owners are made whole from what they have lost during this pandemic. So meaning that money for the taxi squad is coming from the players' cut of the salary cap, not the owner's cut.
Yeah.
Regardless of how many games there are missed. Yet they can't do a taxi squad during the Olympics so they can honor the agreement they made so the players can go to the Olympics. Please tell me that's not bull. And for all of you who want to pipe back about forfeiting pay while being gone, yeah, not a problem. Let the players make their choice. What do you think?
Well, I hate to admit it, but Brad Marchand made a couple good points, I think, in his statement. I also think that he probably speaks for a lot of players, because I don't think you make comments that boldly and that publicly unless you know you're not going to be torched by your peers afterwards.
Right, exactly. When you're not, I mean, especially when you're coming out against both the league and the players union at the same time, right? Like you're coming out against both of them. You got to know that there's, right, his teammates, right? You think that he hasn't talked to Patrice Bergeron, a longtime Team Canada player, likely getting his last chance to go to the Olympics? You think he didn't talk to him before making those comments? Absolutely. And other players for other teams, right? Pasternak playing, like all these guys are playing. Now they're not.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been some, the players that were coming out before about their hesitation, I feel like, and I can't remember some of the names off the top of my head. I'm just going off a feeling. I feel like they were some of the older guys who have families at home and who, maybe 4 years ago would have been for sure's on the team. And now this year, maybe they'd be a bottom six.
So I said two names that come to mind. Robin Lehner, Alex Pietrangelo are two that I think of off the top of my head, but
I think John Tavares was another one who was like, I don't know about spending that much time away from my family.
Yeah.
But then you got Connor McDavid being like, guys, what are we doing here? We need a best on best world competition.
Because they haven't had it now it'll be 8 years.
Yeah.
So,
and like, I really do believe the Olympics is the best tournament for that. The World Cup of Hockey is, it doesn't feel legit to me.
It's fun, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. Team Europe was kind of weird. The under 23s were kind of weird. Like, it's a cool way of doing best on best, I guess, but it wasn't a true like nation versus nation.
Right. When you're literally, especially for that young team, like, again, great idea, a lot of fun for the tournament. But like when you're saying that, especially nowadays, when these young players are coming in more prepared than ever, and you're saying, hey, you don't get Jack Eichel, you don't get Connor McDavid on this roster, that's not actual Team Canada and Team USA.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. It's disappointing. Are you going to watch the men's games at the Olympics?
I didn't last time.
Neither did I.
I have no investment in it.
Yeah.
I don't even know who won gold last time. Sweden? Russia? Who knows?
I think Russia.
I genuinely have zero idea.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting idea, and we're going to get to this topic in a second, but the World Juniors just got canceled for a number of these teams, right? They've been practicing, they've been playing. What are your thoughts on sending the World Juniors
I was
teams to Russia?
Just going to ask you that. That was my next question on the tip of my tongue. Do it. I love that. They should absolutely do it.
especially for some of these guys. I mean, this was going to be, for some of them, their last chance to represent Canada. It got cut short, and now they can do it again.
I would rather watch them than like some retiree from the NHL who spent the last 10 years playing in Europe.
And you know that those players would sign up for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's a better way to help your draft capital than playing in a best on best turn? Like, you're playing against not, juniors, but you're playing on the best players that country can send that aren't in the NHL. And for some, like Russia's team is going to be a great team, right? They're going to have the best of the KHL out there. Sweden's going to have a good team. So I think for them to show their draft capital and to show what they're made of, that's the best showcase possible.
They should absolutely do that. I think what'll be harder is convincing all of their local junior teams to release them to go do that.
Well, good news is their local junior teams might not be allowed to play back by then. So who knows? Who knows what we're looking at?
They should absolutely do that. I love that idea. I would watch those games.
I would too. I would definitely tune in. I would care more, right? It'd be better than watching Team Canada in their last game playing against Austria and winning 11-2 in a game that no one watched the entirety of.
No.
Unless you're Connor Bedard's parents.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I turned it off after it was 5-0.
I actually turned it on when it was 5-0, but that's a different set of logistics.
You're sick. You're sick.
Just wanted to see what's happening. Who knew that was going to be my last bit of hockey for 2021? If you had known
for Austria,
if I'd have told you that was the last bit of hockey, that the tournament was getting shut down the next day, would you have watched that game?
Yeah, probably.
See, I made the right choice.
Although, like, I should have known. The writing was on the wall there.
It felt like it. So let's get to that World Junior Hockey Championship tournament that especially in Canada, we're all very excited about, right? It's one of the things of the holiday season. Boxing Day, December 26th, it always gets started and you're always excited. And they promised a bubble scenario for these players. And in the end, the tournament lasted 5 days and got shut down.
Yeah. Did they even make it that far? Yeah, I think they made it about 5 days. Not counting they had one day of pre-season games, and it was a situation that was entirely a problem because they organized it poorly. This should have been done better and they couldn't, right? Should have been a bubble. Wasn't anything close to a bubble. And this is what you get. Well, yeah. I mean, don't tell people it's a bubble and then have the players have to share the elevators with randos who are coming in and out of these hotels. That's not a bubble. And with how transmissible and contagious this Omicron variant is, they need to be in a true bubble. The craziest thing about this is we know the bubble works.
It doesn't just show up, right? It doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It has to get in. Yeah.
It works. Why didn't you just do it heading into this? I know this whole variant and this wave came kind of out of nowhere, mid-December, early December. You weren't planning for it, but they got to be ready to pivot in times like these. You have to be.
Absolutely. And they did it last year, right? They did it last year. They know how to do it. They
bubbled it last year. The NHL bubbled 2 years ago. They know it works. I think what it came down to was the money. It's a big money maker tournament for them. They didn't want to give up all the money.
Well, and they didn't want, because they came under fire originally because of all their cancellations, especially of the under 18 women's tournament that was scheduled for January that they canceled. And at the same time as they're canceling this, they're saying, hey, but we can play this men's tournament.
Yeah. Until they couldn't anymore.
Literally because they didn't have enough teams to hold a tournament.
So they canceled it. And immediately as they canceled it, they're like, but we'll do it in June. And now all of a sudden they're willing to do all the other tournaments as well that they've canceled, which they weren't planning on doing initially.
That said, I kind of love the idea of a June World Juniors. I don't want it every year, but that's mean, as the World Juniors are for a lot of teams, a like way to get like some scouting in and see some players as a last ditch scouting effort before the draft. I don't hate that idea.
That's a lot of fun. And there really isn't any other hockey for them to compete with at that time.
No, even if there's some overlap with the Stanley Cup Finals, that's fine.
Which there could be, but it would be minimal.
They play 3 games a week in the finals, right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That'll be fine.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult situation. I feel for those kids. We saw, Slovak goalie, he made some comments. He was like, I'd like to send a few words about this World Junior Tournament. It is a joke. Nothing else is true. How is this even possible? Every single player, I've been preparing for this tournament for days, months, even years. This is the best part of the junior hockey. I was so excited to play this tournament because I know people watch that and how great experience it is. It is a celebration of hockey. The best players at one place all together. Christmas time without family, hard to imagine, right? We give everything we can to hockey every day and even spend the biggest holidays without our family. And I can tell you one thing, it is hard. I came here and tried to do my best, and this is how it is done. This goes on the IHAF. And that's only like a third of what he had to say. And I feel for these players, especially, players in Canada have a very different set of circumstances, right?
Yeah.
Most of the players on that team, they know they're going to get drafted. But players on other teams, this is the peak of their hockey career. And it was done terribly.
Totally. It's when they're going to be the most visible all year.
The best tournament, the best players they'll ever play against.
Yeah. And the other piece of it too is when you look at it at a human level, like now they gave up their Christmas and their holidays to be here for this tournament, and now it's canceled and you're stuck here in a non-bubbled hotel.
Just in a regular hotel. I you know what? I actually drove through Red Deer during that tournament to visit some family.
Did you attend any weddings while you were there by any chance?
I didn't, but you know what? I've been to Red Deer. Have you ever been to Red Deer, Alberta?
Never, no.
It's like 75,000, maybe 100,000 people big. I was shocked to learn that there was a Marriott in Red Deer. That was my biggest takeaway from this. I'm like, Red Deer's got a Marriott? Good on them. Good on them. But it's unfortunate. These kids, they did, right? They gave up a lot to get here.
Yeah, it sucks.
Especially those that like got COVID and had to stay longer, right?
Yeah.
So there's players on all kinds of teams that had it, officials. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it sucks. Can't get on an airplane.
You know who else can't get on an airplane? The Russian team.
Well, they did get on an airplane.
They couldn't stay on an airplane. Kind of like comical in all of this, right? And all the things that are happening. The fact that we have the Russian team going because this team of junior players is kicked off because allegedly, I know that like there was certain reports that like, yes, confirmed they were kicked off the plane. But the actual details of it were not confirmed. The fact that they were trying to smoke on a commercial airliner on their way back from this tournament is just something that I was not expecting to come out of the World Juniors this year. And I think I needed that.
Like what year is it? How old are these people?
When I haven't flown on Russian airlines, to be fair, but it has been decades since you could smoke on an airplane in Canada.
Like, I feel like even in these kids' parents' lifetime, they haven't been allowed to smoke on airplanes.
And they're like no, we're good.
Like, do you think the night before they just were watching reruns of Mad Men on TV in the hotel room or something? They're just like, that looks like fun.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's live that life tomorrow.
Like, where do you think you are? Where do you get this idea?
I don't know. But yeah, apparently they weren't the only. Apparently the Czech team also had problems getting home. They also were kicked off their plane. So difficult times for these teams. Some of them not making it easy on themselves, though.
I did appreciate the drama of the initial reports of it, that police swarmed the airplane and removed them.
Like apparently they flew through Calgary. I've seen the Calgary police force, with all due respect to them. I'm not sure they were swarming an airplane. Like I've been at the airport. I've seen what happens at the airport. pretty sure they just asked them kindly to get off the plane.
No one's swarming anything.
Okay, can we end this segment? We're going to take our break short. Can we end this with some good news?
Yeah.
Because we've had lots of terrible news happening, but there's some great news happening in Seattle. Seattle and Vancouver managed to play a hockey game this week, and fan in the stands notices something with the Vancouver equipment manager. Something which, I mean, maybe the product, this is another thing, right? I said product on the ice, not as good. Product on the ice was so bad that this fan was looking at a mole on the neck of Vancouver Canucks equipment manager, and I guess she's a medical student, noticed, hey, that you should get that checked out. Turns out it was cancerous and caught it early. Amazing story, and really become one of the only highlights over this last 2 weeks.
And like, just for some perspective for how boring the last 2 weeks have been, this story has been on every piece of hockey media I've looked at over the last 3 days. It's getting TV, air, radio. It's all over the place.
Well, and especially in this time, right? Both the Canucks and the Kraken made donations, like gave her money for schooling, which is fantastic. But just, I mean, really great story to see out there. And so we see all the time, right? Of like people making signs with like clever jokes or trying to get themselves on TV, right? I myself have gone to a game and tried to get myself on TV with a clever sign. Side note, it worked.
What did it say?
So I went to a San Diego Padres game.
Okay.
And I enjoyed their announcers. One, Matt Vasgersian, was there at the time. And so we made a sign that says Canada loves Matt and Mud, the two announcers, and held it up at the game. They showed us on the board during the game and apparently on the broadcast. And even though the sign did not say it, they talked about how much they love Calgary. So clearly they're big fans. Nonetheless, so there's that side of it, but then there's signs, because that's how she told them, right? She like wrote it on a sign and showed him, like, hey,
she like wrote it on her phone or something.
Yeah,
somehow.
So what else can we be doing at hockey games to like do some good with what we're yelling at players, fans, coaches?
Do some good. Now that I know I can get their attention, I'm just going to put the word shoot on my phone and bang on the glass.
I mean, I think they hear that enough already.
How about drop the drop pass?
Or dropping the gloves. Just stop it. No one cares.
No more dump and chase. Just bang on just get the coach's attention.
Carry the puck into the zone. Don't give up possession.
I mean, now that I know I can get their attention, all I need to do is wave my hands around a little bit. I don't think they'll pay me $10,000 for it, but
but if you get signed as a coach, that could be a good sign.
that could be a good sign.
This guy's got some good ideas. You know what? Let's bring him in for a practice. You're drawing up plays on your phone, like, hey, this. They call a timeout and they're like, all right, let's go look behind at this, what this guy behind the glass has for us.
It's just like a random game of tic-tac-toe on my hand that I was playing.
that works great. Or you bring your own whiteboard. Are you allowed to bring a whiteboard into an NHL arena? Is that a thing that they'll let you do? I
don't know, because I think they screen the messages on the signs as you go into the arena. So if you have like a whiteboard and a pen, I feel like they'd be like, no.
I've seen signs get confiscated going into those. So
yeah, definitely. I have too. They don't want no swears on the TV broadcast.
No, absolutely not. Well, I think maybe you could like just do it on your chest, because they always have like guys with markers on their chest. Those guys managed to get in. So just shirtless Nick drawn on his chest.
It's true. How do they manage that?
No, sir, can you please lift up your shirt?
Yeah, it's a dangerous precedent to set going into hockey games.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a break here. We're going to be back on the other side talking about the rest of what has been happening in the world of hockey. Three, 2, 1.
So we opened the show talking about resolutions. We're going to come out of break talking about resolutions, because there are some things in the hockey world that could be improved a little bit. So I think we should make some resolutions for some teams or players or whoever.
I'm here for it. Let's make some resolutions. Let's do the work for them so that they can listen to the show and they don't have to sit there and think. It's January 3rd, right? You can make resolutions still. You can make them whenever you want to be the best version of yourself. So let's give them some, but I want to start with us and like not me and you. I don't want to dive into like,
we only have 30 minutes left, so we don't have time for it.
That's good. That's true. You did say it would take me at least a full hour at the start. So don't think I didn't forget that. But let's talk fans. As fans of the league, what do you think we should resolve to be better at? Or fans of hockey in general, what do you think we could resolve to be better at this year?
Oh, that's a good question, Carl. What can we as fans resolve to be better at this year? I mean, I think we could be nicer to each other on the internet.
That's a very good place to start.
Right? Like fans of opposing teams, we don't always have to be mean to each other. I don't need to attack you, Washington Capitals fans, because of something Tom Wilson did. You're not Tom Wilson.
No. Now, no, you shouldn't even attack. Even if someone agrees with Tom Wilson, what Tom Wilson did, you attacking them is not going to make anything better.
Yeah. So I'll stop doing it.
Okay, so Nick's going to resolve. Oh my goodness, Nick. Nick's going to stop doing that. I think that's a very good play. I think all kinds of opinions on the internet. Let's just be better on the internet this year. One, I'm going to go back to yours. Can we stop yelling shoot? Can that be a thing we resolve to do this year? Can we stop where I'm watching the game? Look, I do this at home all the time, right? I do it when I'm I'm yelling at the TV, but I'm not actually there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very different when I'm frustrated about something on the TV, when I'm trying, like at the top of my lungs, yelling at them to do something.
Mm-hmm.
They have a plan. There are people likely smarter than me who have made that plan. And we're just going to let that plan happen. And whatever it is that's happening, I could disagree. I could boo. That could be a way that I show my displeasure with what's happening on the ice. But yelling instructions for them, let's give that up.
So down that same vein, then I think that we should try to not set lines for our favorite teams anymore. I think let's maybe assume most coaching staffs and locker rooms know what the best combinations and chemistry of lineups are. And let's not try to tell them who belongs on the first line or the fourth line. Let's just roll with it.
I will tell you this, though. Zach Kassian does not belong on the first line.
Carl, what did I just say?
Sorry. No, this is different. As a podcasters, we're the media. We're holding them accountable.
Yeah, we're the media.
That's what, right? Accountability from the media. That's what's happening here.
Is he actually still on the first line?
No, they replaced him with Zach Hyman.
I was going to say, I thought that's why they brought Hyman in there.
Yeah. And I forget who's on the other side of that. I think normally it's Nugent Hopkins, but he's out right now.
Should we, as fans, resolve to be nicer to the Maple Leafs this year?
Sure.
No, Carl. The answer is no. They'll be fine.
I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll get by. Here's the thing. In which way should we stop tweeting mean things at Mitch Marner or like Mitch Marner's dad? Sure, right? That should stop. But should we stop making fun of them as a larger organization? No, I don't think that should happen at all.
Good. I agree with that. Are there any teams you think that we should stop making fun of as an organization?
All right. So here are the teams that typically, as a show, we make fun of as a whole, right? The Leafs.
Do you have this written down? You look like you're
No.
reading something.
But yeah, it's right. It's actually right here, right next to my monitor. I've got them written down. I have to make sure that we rip on every team each week. So
Yeah.
So the Leafs.
Yeah.
We make fun of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, a lot. I know.
If they paid their taxes, we wouldn't have to worry about that. Boston Bruins, we rip on them all the time, but that's because a lot of things that they do, we don't agree with.
Yeah.
This week, we had all good things to say about Boston Bruins and Brad Marchand. So I like to think that we're objective there. I mean, you rip on the Red Wing or on the Avalanche. I rip on the Red Wings.
That's okay, though.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Is that it? The Oilers,
so.
the Canucks,
the Senators taking a few shots at the Canadians.
So every Canadian team, pretty much. We don't really have anything bad to say about the Winnipeg Jets.
No, not really.
So, yeah.
They all deserve it, though, right?
I don't think any of these, right? And it's the organization as a whole that we're ripping on and some of their choices.
Not really any individuals.
Sometimes individuals, but again, media accountability. That's what's happening here. All right, so let's go on from the fans. One that we always rip on is the league, right?
Yes.
Gary Bettman and them. Any resolutions that the NHL should make this year as an organization?
I think the NHL could resolve to be more honest. And as I say that, I think the word I'm looking for that's better is transparent. They just don't really give us much of anything ever.
Well, especially in a time where like things constantly are changing. And I maybe this is kind of what you're getting at is there's a lot of, constant changes. Like, hey, we're going to take this approach. No, we're going to take this approach and this approach. And we don't really see the reasons behind them that would help us get on board with what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And the way they talk, I mean, it's not anything new. It's just like anytime the league says anything, it feels like they've been told by a boardroom full of lawyers exactly how to say it. Like we see it when it comes to player safety. We see it when it comes to, more recently the Blackhawks situation, even some of the Olympic stuff. It all just sounds so legalese.
Yeah, that's what happens when Gary Bettman, a lawyer, fills the board of governors room with a bunch of lawyers. That is, you're exactly right.
There you go.
It's a bunch of lawyers coming up with all these reasons.
It's not approachable. And I get the fans aren't supposed to like them or the league. It's about the teams, but it's just not approachable.
But I do think that it hurts. Like, I don't want to cheer for this league when they do embarrassing things like the Blackhawks situation. Definitely, I stopped watching all hockey that week because I didn't like what the league in general was doing. So it hurts. And if I'm doing it, other people are doing it too. Yeah.
And, I think we saw not the same thing, but something similar too, when I think they were in the bubble at the time and the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening. And there's just no acknowledgement of anything. Like the players had to be the ones who stood up and were like, we're not playing tonight through this.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. I very much agree with that. And I think, that's good. I appreciate.
It just felt very heavy.
No, you're right. One thing I think the league could resolve to do this year is resolve to give us better schedules for hockey games. I want them spread out more. I don't want 14 games on a Saturday and 2 on a Friday. Some of us don't have plans on Friday nights and want to watch a hockey game. Is that too much to ask, NHL schedule makers? That's
also more daytime games on the weekends.
Yeah. I want a game that starts, and I know that those hit different, but I want games that go from 11, and you can even start a game every hour so that I can watch during, or every half hour, stagger it so I can watch during intermissions. I don't want like 3 games that all start at 1:00. Spread them out.
Yeah.
Make it better.
Yeah, I love that. I love watching hockey all day on the weekends.
All right. Any teams that you can think of that should resolve anything this year?
Oh, yeah. Who's on our list again?
Well, let's start with Toronto.
Oh, what should the Toronto Maple Leafs resolve to do? Win a playoff series. That one's easy.
Done. All right. Arizona.
Pay your taxes. Next.
Boston.
Oh, just don't be jerks.
Easy, man. We're flying through these. I think the Calgary Flames should resolve to figure out this arena deal that they've let go down the drain.
Yeah, like figure out an arena. Do they play in the oldest arena in the league right now?
Second oldest. Madison Square Garden is the only arena older.
That one doesn't count though. They just invested $1 billion into renovations for that place.
Exactly. And the Saddle Dome has not been renovated. It flooded and they were still like, let's just run it back.
Just turn the air conditioning up. It'll freeze.
It's dry in Calgary. Just open the doors. Everything will be okay. Just air it out. Can we just get some fans in here?
That's a good one for the Flames. Resolve to figure out their arena drama.
Yeah, they need to do that. That arena, I don't know if you saw, the arena deal died this past. They had to make a payment. Leading up to Christmas, there was like them and the mayor were getting into like a bit of a pushing match about I think it worked out to $12 million that this has fallen apart over. The city was like, Flames, you need to pay this $12 million. And the Flames were like, no, we're not. And so they had to make a payment by December 31st. And they didn't, and so it's done.
I saw that, and I read that. I think it was the Calgary mayor's Twitter thread about the whole situation, where she was just like, we just talked about transparency 2 minutes ago. I was like, that's transparency. She laid it all out. I loved it. I think good for the city for not eating that.
I mean, they're going to eventually because city council likes arenas and cities like having fancy things, but I hope they don't. All right, let's see who else is on the list. What do you want? What do you resolve? What do you want the Red Wings to do this year?
What do I want the Red Wings to do? I still don't think making the playoffs is a huge possibility for them, even though we went into the Christmas break with them in a playoff spot. I just want them to take one more step forward in the rebuild with some of these young guys. Like we saw it with Raymond and Seider already this year, but I'd like to see the next crop of prospects, guys like Joe Veleno, start stepping into the lineup and making an impact. And then next year we can talk about making a run at a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think next year I would say it's very likely that you're at least in contention, right? In those talks for a playoff spot, because you've got teams like in that division, right? Teams like, Tampa won't be as good as they were this year. Boston's for sure going to be worse next year. Toronto will be probably worse next year. Detroit's just getting better. So
yeah. What about Colorado?
I think they need to resolve to figure out what they're going to do in net. I think
interesting.
Darcy Kemper's been fine. But he's not been great. This team is just very good. Even, Nathan McKinnon, we talked before Christmas. I think he has 3 goals still this year. The depth of this team is great. They've been able to get by with him being injured, players being out with injury. Like Nazem Kadri's played the most games of any player on the team this year. And he's like a point a game. I think the last 10 games, he's been like 2 points per game on average, 19 and 10. Unreal some of the depth we've had from these guys, but we need a little bit more and we need better production in net. So I think seeing what we can do, we've got some cap space at the deadline here. I wouldn't be sad if we went out and even like got traded for someone or tried to figure out what we're doing, because I'm not super excited about Darcy Kemper being the goalie next year. He's good enough, but I'm not sure that Darcy Kemper I don't know if he's won us a single game this year where like we should have lost that and Kemper kept us in it. And you need that to win a Stanley Cup.
You do. And see, my resolution for the Avalanche was going to be make the Stanley Cup Finals. Because I believe that's where they as a team should be at right now.
Yes, absolutely. They should be at that point. 1,000%. What are the teams you want to make some resolutions for?
How about the New York Islanders? Ooh. Just be better.
I think they should find Matt Barzal. I don't know where they put him, but I haven't seen him all season.
Still hiding out, eh?
And I want them to go find. I know that New York's a big city, but I watched a movie over the holidays called Home Alone 2 Lost in New York. And I think that they could watch that movie, get some tips on how to find a lost child in New York City and execute on those tips.
So start at the Trump Hotel?
I mean, you got to start somewhere.
What are the key locations in that movie? There's a Trump Hotel. There's that chapel where the bird lady lives, right? Like in the clock tower.
Yeah. Central Park. And then his uncle's house or aunt's house or wherever they were supposed to visit.
Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that I can remember.
Yeah. So maybe look at Barry Trotz's aunt or uncle's house. Maybe that's
any active construction sites. Yes. And watch out for booby traps.
They're everywhere.
Imagine just the social media interns like Matt.
I think that would be a great way in a season where they're struggling to be able to get the fan base involved.
Oh, absolutely. Just a scavenger hunt.
I think, right? A good Where's Waldo would be nice.
I love it.
All right. Let's take a look. I mean, we haven't been out west. The Seattle Kraken, it's their first year. This is their first chance to make a New Year's resolution. What should the Kraken resolve to do?
Fix Philip Grubauer. Like get some hammer, some nails, some glue, pick up the IKEA instructions and figure out how to put him back together.
Some Allen keys. I think would definitely do the trick. Duct tape, whatever it takes. Because you put a lot of money in him. You invested in him as your guy. Even though like Matt Giordano. I don't know who Matt Giordano is. He was probably like the stunt director of Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Mark Giordano, though, is the captain of the Kraken. But like the real investment was in Grubauer. And it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good for them at all.
No. Any other teams, players that you want to resolve things for?
Too many that we have time for, Carl. I just hope that they all made their own resolutions.
If an NHL organization needs New Year's Day to really reevaluate and reassess where they're at, I think they need new management. I think that's what I would resolve that they do is clean house.
Good idea.
Like, look, we only look at how we're doing on the ice and reflect on it one day a year. It is New Year's Day. That's when we make our plan. And then we execute on that plan for the rest of the year. We have several actionable items and we go from there.
Don't talk about it again until January 1 the next year.
We look at it. We evaluate what we did right, what we did not do right, and we make a new plan. It's great. Happy New Year, everyone. All right. Well, let's take here. We got a big prize to hand out, Nick.
We do.
It's time for us to take a look at our high sticking results from last year. And all that I know is that we ended. So we said, heading into it, that we would hand out a NHL jersey to the winner of the first session where we said, who scores the game-winning goal? You pick, you hand out points. We ended with a tie. Brody and Scott ended up tied with 9 points apiece.
That I did not see coming.
Not in the slightest. So we have to break this tie. I have a suggestion.
Okay.
I mean, it is a long slog to be able to get this. This next time, there's going to be more points handed out. I'm going to tell you why in a second. But this one, it was hard, right? We hadn't done game-winning goal high sticking for a while. This was like the first version we did.
Yep.
it's tough.
But I think it was harder because we eliminated the assist part, right?
Exactly. Right. We made it a little harder, which the extra bonus pointsiness of this next one is coming back. So it's going to be good for folks. So that was gone. But I think it should be commended, the one who got the first point of the year. I think that would be good. I think maybe that's what we look at as our tiebreaker. What do you say?
I like that too. Like who started off strong, right?
Yeah. Who started off strong? Who was like consistent the whole year? Right. And I don't know. So I'm gonna pull it up here. I'm gonna go back. Luckily, I do keep track of all of this in our fancy spreadsheet all year. So according to this, the first game was the Chicago Blackhawks, New Jersey Devils. I do not know who scored the game-winning goal for that game.
Wait, that was the first game we chose of the season? Or that's the first game where a point was recorded?
I mean, apparently at some point we picked the Chicago Blackhawks and New Jersey Devils for a game, and that was the one. I
can't believe people play this game.
I can't believe people listen to this show. Let's be real. But that means, I think if you think back to it and you think, did I get that correct? Scott, congratulations. You are the winner.
Wow.
We'll be reaching out to you and finding out. I mean, I know because of, I know he's an Anaheim Ducks fan. I never thought that we'd be sending out an Anaheim Ducks jersey, but here we are. So we're going to send that out to him. Congratulations to Scott. Let's give some details on what this next round is going to be, because how it's going to work is we are doing predict the score. So this is one we've done in the past. Originally, we were supposed to do this to the Olympic break. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll do it to, end of February? 2-month sprint.
Yep.
Okay. End of February. 2 months. You've got 2 months to predict the score of the game. So here's how it works. To get 1 point, you predict who won the game. To get, and you have to get the winner right to get any points. Okay, so if you get the winner right, you get 1 point.
Yeah.
If you get the score of one team right, you get 2 points. If you get the score of both teams right, you get 3 points.
Big points available in this round.
Lots of points. Points for days. So that's the way it's going to work. You pick the right team. So right now, we actually kickstarted tonight, and I didn't have to talk to you about it because every game in the NHL was canceled tonight except for Rangers Oilers. So there's only one game on the schedule. Last I saw, the Rangers are winning 2-1. And I believe Mike Laborn's the only one who picked the Rangers to win this game. So he'll be the one getting points.
I like it. Mike going against the grain.
That's what you got to do, right? If you want to win, you got to get different. So he'll get points. He'll get started. So we're going to do that every day, and we're going to do our best to not have games that we pick get canceled because of COVID-related reasons, much like what's happened at the end of December. But it also means that we need to pick some game-winning goal games. Our high-sticking Pavel Bure must-watch games of the week. What are you looking at tomorrow?
Starting tomorrow, a lot of good teams playing, not the best matchups. Maybe Nashville, Vegas.
Nashville, Vegas sounds good to me.
Okay.
Nashville, yeah. Nashville's going to be good. Vegas, we've got Robin Lehner's been out for the last little bit, but so that can make that a better game for Nashville. I think Wednesday, we've got to go. There's only 2 games on the schedule, but I think Oilers Leafs is one that we've got to do.
And that game is moving forward.
For now. If it is canceled, then we'll just pivot and do Blues Penguins.
I mean, that's the only other game there is. So
easy choice.
Easy choice.
Thursday.
Should we continue our not hating of the Boston Bruins and go Minnesota Boston?
I think that's a great choice. Minnesota, I mean, coming back to reality, I think they lost 4 games in a row before the break. Did play. I mean, This is how little we now care about outdoor games. It happened. We didn't even talk about it, but they also lost that game. So losers of 5 in a row heading into Boston. Friday's games, 2 pretty good games, actually. Calgary, Carolina, and Washington, St. Louis.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know where I want to go. Where do you want to go?
I was leaning Calgary, Carolina.
I was leaning Washington, St. Louis.
Let's do it. Washington, St. Louis. I was honestly equally on the fence about both of them. So,
all right, then let's do Washington.
All right. Got some good games. Ooh, lots of good games. Toronto, Colorado on Saturday. Boston, Tampa. Florida, Carolina. Lots of repeats here, but the good games
I think we should go Toronto, Colorado. That's always going to be a good matchup.
It's going to be a high scoring one for sure. Take the over on that game. Sunday, only one game on the schedule. It is Dallas versus St. Louis. Last week of the NFL regular season. You know the NHL is not scheduling games then.
They're not messing with that.
No. All right, Monday. Let's pick a game for Monday. We got 4 games on the slate.
Not so we don't repeat anything. I guess we go Tampa, New Jersey.
Tampa, New Jersey. That's all right. Yeah. And also I didn't count. There's 5 games. Counting's hard. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to @4thLine Podcast with the number 4 on Twitter. And each day we're going to post about it. Okay. Say, hey, these are the games. What do you think the score is going to be? You tell us. If you're right, you get points. At the end of January, we're going to hand out a prize, which will probably be a 4th Line Podcast puck, maybe a coaster if we still have some of those, pack of vintage hockey cards, and we'll send those off to you at the end of February. And that'll be a random draw. At the end of February, whoever has the most points is awarded an NHL jersey, just like Scott did. It's that easy. Just be like Scott. Be smart like Scott. And you can win.
Let's figure out who he wants on his jersey before we start praising him.
Who would you get on a Ducks jersey? I'd probably go Trevor Zegras.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd go anyone current. I'm a big nostalgia guy.
A Solani?
Korea.
Ooh, that would, I've told my Paul Korea stories on the podcast before. So
who's the goalie who has just the saddest picture in human history? Jaguar?
When he won the Conn Smythe but lost.
But lost the cup?
Yeah.
Man, I can't. That picture makes me sad.
Well, and you would get a jersey just to commemorate. And then your jersey makes you sad every time you put it on. Whenever
I wear it. No, I wouldn't get Jaguar. Of the current crop, I'd probably go Zegras.
Yeah, that's the right call, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, I agreed with you. All right. So head on over there. If you want more about the show, you can find us at the4thlinepodcast.com. You can find us on the email, mail@the4thlinepodcast.com. You can send us anything there. You can also find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Google, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're just finding us right now, especially if you're over on Full Press Radio, you can find us there. Subscribe so you can find us every week. Or just keep finding us however you found us today, because clearly it worked. So we look forward to having you. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope we all have a great 2022. I know that 2021 wasn't what we expected. 2022, I think if we keep our expectations low, we can blow them out of the water.
It's going to be a great year, Carl. And it starts right now. It's time for us to wrap up another 4th Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go for... It's time for us to wrap up another 4th Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. For pros in the Olympics, there's no substitution. And going back to hating Brad Marchand is my resolution.